we can have an understanding about what is the way forward.
All right. Desperate times, they say, require desperate measures, which petrol subsidy removal brought upon Nigeria. But President Bola Tinubu said the federal government has saved more than 1 trillion naira since removal of subsidy 2 months ago. President Tinubu, who addressed Nigerians on Monday, approved buses for students of tertiary institutions. The president also said 100 billion naira will be spent to acquire 3,000 units of a 20-seater compressed natural gas buses for transporters across Nigeria, and rejected arbitrary increase of fees by federal schools. Let's hear from the president.
Part of our program is to roll out buses across state and local government for mass transit at a much more affordable rate. We have made provision to invest 100 billion between now and March 2024 to acquire minimum of 3,000 units of 20-seater CNG fuel buses. These buses will be shared to major transportation companies in the state using the intensity of travel per capita. Participating transport companies will be able to access credit under the facility at a maximum per annum 9% interest rate with 60 months repayment period. I plead with you, please have faith in our ability to deliver and in our concern for your well-being. We will get out of this turbulence, and due to the measures we have taken, Nigeria will be better equipped and able to take advantage of the future that awaits her. And in a little over 2 months, we have saved over 1 trillion naira that would have been squandered on the unproductive fuel subsidy, which only benefited smugglers and fraudsters. That money will now be used more directly and more beneficially for you and your families. For example, we shall fulfill our promise to make education more affordable to all and provide loans to higher education students who may need them. No Nigerian student will have to abandon higher education because of lack of money. Our commitment is to promote the greatest good for the greatest number of our people. On principle, we shall never falter.
Jide, he said he's not going to govern over us. We shouted about the 8,000 naira palliative to families and everything.
12 million families.
You know, families, and he actually reversed
Changed
it.
his mind.
Yes.
Now, mark of a good leader.
Nigerians were saying the last administration that anytime the president doesn't not communicate, he doesn't talk to us. Now, in the height of this hardship, Bola Tinubu came yesterday, and that speech was, I don't know. For me, I was rest assured that, look, this person knows what he's doing.
Of course he does, and as I've said before, one marked difference between him and the immediate past president is that, unlike the immediate past president, he is very much concerned about public perception. And because he's very much concerned about public perception, whatever action he takes that suggests that he does not want the masses to breathe, he is prepared to take a second look at that policy and reverse it if he's convinced that it is not in the best interest of the... Now you've seen what they are going to do with 125 billion set aside as conditional grant for MSMEs. 1,500 very small businesses will be given 50,000 across 774 local government areas. 100,000 MSMEs will have access to 500,000 and 1 million naira loan with 9% interest repayable within 36 months. We suggested something like this earlier, and we said, look, if you do this, what it means is that those small companies will be able to hire a minimum of 3 persons, and that way, you're also reflating the economy.
Look at
you are getting the economy to work. This 50,000, it could be people doing meshai.
Yes, sir.
You know, all those people
selling pure water,
selling
pure water, corn,
tea. Those roadside tea sellers. You know, they too, their businesses will boom, and ultimately, that will jack up our gross domestic product, because the president says he wants to jack up the gross domestic product. Look at the efforts that he is making in the area of agriculture, for example. He said government will invest 50 billion each to cultivate 150,000 hectares of rice and maize. 50 billion each will be invested in cultivating 100,000 hectares of cassava and wheat. Agriculture is the biggest contributor to the Nigerian GDP. It does much better by far than even telecoms and the rest. So he's focusing on that. That is focusing on agriculture as a way of boosting the economy and reducing hunger. And it's also saying that the approved infrastructure support fund for states will improve rural roads to aid transportation of farm produce. You see, attention again being focused on agriculture. So rather than spend all of the money coming into the kitty or the federation account, that last time they decided what came in was 1.55 trillion, but they decided in sharing 907 billion. For obvious reasons, if you push all of that money into the system, it can worsen inflation. But they saw the need in these difficult times to set aside more than half of that money for as savings into the infrastructure fund. So what some of us have argued about was that, look, all of this money going into subsidy payment with some people stealing it can actually help us improve infrastructure and even stop us from borrowing loans, I mean, from taking loans for virtually everything. So no one will say that at the end of the day, we are not getting anything from subsidy removal. 1 trillion in 2 months is significant.
Nice program, nice agenda. Yeah. But a lot of Nigeria will talk about is not the absence of this program in time past. That they talked about implementation. That man selling pure water, that woman selling pure water can get the promised 50,000 naira. Implementation is where the devil is.
I think there is a slight paradigm shift from what we used to have in the past. You know, at a point, the CBN started behaving like a commercial bank, handling
anchor borrowers
and all that. The former CBN governor said between 2015 and 2023, the CBN disbursed 1.09 trillion. And in the first 2 months of 2023, 12.something billion was disbursed. You ask yourself, where is this money? And he said the rice growers gave him 100 million naira to buy the APC form. What is that not kickback? So in terms
of anchor borrowers,
I've read what the president is saying, that they are going to work with states. They are going to work with local governments. And I think that is a fundamental shift from what we have had in the past. In such a way, everything is centralized, you know, in the hands of the CBN. There is no way it will not be subject to politicization, manipulation, corruption, and also corruption. So we need to decentralize the process. And then there's a need for strong monitoring mechanism to ensure that